All right. It's that time. It's time for Beyond Sight and Sound. Let's do this. Would you like to optimize your success out in the field? Metal detecting and gold prospecting? One word: Coiltek. They've been manufacturing high-performance aftermarket coils for years now for popular models such as the E-Track, the Sovereign, the Explorer series, the GPX series, and our favorite, the 10x5 for the CTX 3030. Great target separation in trashy areas, still maintaining excellent depth for the coil size. Coiltek is optimizing discovery, your potential for success in the field. You can check them out at coiltekmanufacturing.com.au.
All right, we're back and we're live once again. You are listening to Beyond Sight and Sound, metal detecting and treasure hunting radio for all the really cool digging people out there. And as I look into the chat, I see that Gordon's in the house. Homefinder first through the door. Jesse. Michael. Let's see here. Bill. Suki. Quite a few others coming through there. And it sounds like we've got a little bit of feedback tonight. But we'll see how that goes, and hopefully we get that worked out. If not, that's the beauty of archives and post-production work. You know how that all goes, folks. Obviously, we had our little hiccup Wednesday after the Windows update. Hopefully that all was rectified after the show. It didn't cripple us, but it did have us limping there for a minute or two. And obviously, we want to make sure and give a big shout out to SW Shooters and Prospectors, Mr. Chuck Smalley, as well as the Detecting the Heartland group, who is offering their Christmas giveaway over there. Make sure and check that out if you're not a member of Detecting the Heartland. Get in there and see what you can do. Maybe get involved in that contest. Some lucky kid is going to be a very happy kid at Christmas with that contest. And to hear that winner announced, as far as I know, unless things have changed, you're going to have to tune in to a future episode of Beyond Sight and Sound. I believe it's something like a week or two before Christmas. Contest is open to U.S. residents in the lower 48 states. Also, you know how we like to share the love about the groups and stuff like that. Obviously, we are still interacting as much as we can with groups, and big shout out to World of Tokens. It always tries to give us a little plug there. And Rock River Group is also showing as a suggested group on Beyond Sight and Sound now. If any of the other groups have happened to link Beyond Sight and Sound and we do not know it, by all means, drop me a message and let me know so we can get that rectified, because we do love to reciprocate in that sense, and get your group linked to Beyond Sight and Sound. So, obviously, we see that there's been a few more people jumping into the chat here. Always great to see. Definitely great to see. And as you folks see, we've got Jesse in the chat. And welcome to him, and welcome for the thanks there. Although thanks not needed, more than happy to help you earlier today. And we'll have Jesse on sometime here in the very near future, since we're into research season, to talk about Native American culture and research. Should be a good show. I see that Mark's also in. But that's probably the last that I'm going to be seeing in the chat, because we know how the chat loves to fly. So if you guys have got any questions for our guests tonight, hopefully one of them may be able to spot it in the chat, or you can always give us a call. Home Finder is always right on the ball with the call-in number there, 419-549-5744. Or the numbers on the telephonic device if you've got any questions for the guests. And as far as our guests go, really, really great team. Really great audio. You all know them. You've followed the videos of Digging with Seven. You've seen Jeff on the videos as well. You've heard the episodes of Relics Radio. And great people to talk to. They've been doing a great job with the show, and some really, really good audio on those podcasts, which is always nice. I mean, makes it a little hard to listen to if you've got a lot of glitches going on and stuff. But they've been running very smooth, and they've had some great guests so far, with Keebler being on their first episode, actually. And their most recent episode, they had Bird Dog on as their guest. Our friend, your friend, Chris Armstrong, great guy, loves to do the relic hunting and magnet fishing. But you can always check out the archived shows of Bird Dog on both Relics Radio, as he was recently on there, or even look back in the Beyond Sight and Sound archives from when Bird Dog was on with us and shared a little bit about the magnet fishing and relic hunting and his experience with machines. But enough with all of that. We should probably get on with the show and get these guys in here, because we've got both Seven and Jeff from Relics Radio. So let's get them on in here too. How's it going tonight, guys?
It's going good. How you doing, Josh?
All right. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. How's it going for you, Seven? I'm not sure what happened there. Yeah, I mean, Seven's there, but his audio just dumped. Very, very low. Not sure if he bumped a knob on his mixer or what. It's almost like we've lost him.
It sounds like it. Can you hear me now? They're saying can't hear Seven.
Right, yeah, he's not there. I'm not hearing him either. I mean, his line's connected, but his audio's gone. I don't know if he can still hear us. Hopefully he can. Maybe he can call us back on Skype, or maybe reconnect that phone connection and see if we can get some audio out of him then. Because talking to Seven before the show, his audio was good. I'm not sure what happened. It was real good.
Mm-hmm. Can you hear me now? I think I hear him clicking.
Oh, there we
can hear
go.
You now. Proud and loud.
Good deal then. I'm back and alive.
Not sure what happened there.
Jess, I can hear 6 and 8 and not 7.
Who said that?
Jess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Jesse said, yeah. Well, 7's here now, loud and proud. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Right, we were getting everything else, but 7 was missing. So I guess for starters, why don't you both tell us how each of you got into the hobby, how much time you've got in the hobby, maybe even how you got your names. I mean, gotta admit, Digging with 7 is kind of unique. Of course, so's Tennessee Jeff.
Yes, well actually, my wife come up with the Tennessee Jeff. Of course, I had a nickname. They called me Cairo Digger, and I lived in a little community here in Sumner County called Cairo, and I started having like a lot of emails from people from Egypt asking about digging in Cairo, but and then after that, I mean, it was like a lot of people. I would get like phone calls and like emails, and I'm like, well, hold on a minute. No, I'm not digging in Egypt. I'm here in Middle Tennessee. And then then she come up with the Tennessee Jeff, and then of course after that, that's what everybody's called me. So, but that's kind of how I come up with the Tennessee Jeff. And then as the hobby, I've only been in the hobby for maybe 10 years, and actually what started me is I borrowed a friend of mine's metal detector, and it was a cheap Radio Shack metal detector, and I'd went out and I found one flat button, and of course after I found that one flat button, I was hooked. And then I'd ended up in the next, prior to that, after that, I bought probably 3 metal detectors in like 2 months. So, and then now, I mean, of course, I'm very lucky to be in the area I am. I have 2 Civil War campsites walking distance from my house. So, I mean, that's helped me a whole lot. Yeah. And of course, we have a lot of colonial sites here. Our area was settled in, we had forts in 1780s. So that's when they started building the forts around here. But, I mean, but I have a lot of history in my area. So
yeah, absolutely.
But of course, 7, he's been hunting a long time. So
yeah, he's been at it a minute.
Well, I started hunting in probably 1976. I picked up a metal detector at a pawn shop, and there was a elementary school across the street from my house, and I went there, and I mean, you could just find bucket loads of silver coins back in that time period, you know. Absolutely. And I've kind of been in and out of it, but back in probably 5 years, 6 years ago, pretty heavy, and decided probably 3 years ago that I was going to get serious about it and start doing YouTube and everything. And I actually did a shout out to Jeff, was probably my second shout out that I did. And we got connected up kind of that way, and the rest is history. Some people want to know where I got the nickname 7. That was my baseball number whenever I was young. And it's our boy Austin. He's wore 7 all of his life, so 7's a special number in our home.
Right, the tradition continues.
Yes, it does.
Well, getting into the hobby back in the 70s like that was back in the old days with the Heathkits and Rothkos and BFOs and all of that. Them were the arm breakers.
They were the dig-all machines, and no
Ain't
VDI.
That the truth?
You learned by tone, and you learned what tones sounded like. And, you know, I think it was a benefit to me, being a musician as well. Bird Dog and I have talked about it, and Keebs and I have talked about it. I think all musicians are a little bit better tone hunters because we're used to listening to tones and working with tones and things, you know.
I would have to agree with that too, yes, and I am big on tone hunting myself as well. As far as I'm concerned, audio wins out over VDI every time.
It does. It really does. I know. I had the F-75, and on the if you put it in all metal, I mean, you could tell a difference between a deep bullet and a nail. I mean, it would give an iron signal, but you could hear the different tone in it, and you knew it was a good target.
Right. And a lot of people are surprised too. Some of the newcomers to the hobby coming in where we've got these machines that they're all bells and whistles and fancy displays and all of that, and you run into, say, a veteran hunter or somebody that hunts primarily by audio, and we start talking about those little subtle nuances in the tones, and it's like we're talking a whole other language to people until they get their ear trained for it, and they're like, oh yeah, I see there are extra sounds there.
Yeah. But you have to use the machine to learn it.
And it takes them a while to understand that you're not looking at numbers. You get too much into numbers, and you can really walk over a lot of stuff. Jeff will tell you that most of the sites that we hunt now have been hunted so much that if we get a real good signal, we're apprehensive about even digging it,
Right.
So we're looking for those that just barely sound good.
Yeah, at that point you've got to throw your display out the window because you're really looking for those scratchy, iffy targets.
And some of them don't even register on a VDI, and if they do, they're just jumping back and forth. So if you're waiting on a perfect,
Lloyd, what did that last large scent ring up that you dug?
Well, whenever I first got the target, I only got it one way. I couldn't get it the other way. But it tried to jump up into the mid-70s once or twice, but it was probably in the low 50s. But I was getting a repeatable every now and then. Couldn't get anything the other way. And so I thought, well, I'll just pop the top off that plug and check it again. And I did. It was actually still down in the hole, but it was up on edge. And I wasn't getting it at all. There were so many nails in that hole that all I was getting was just the chatter of iron nails until I went back and pulled some more dirt out. And then, of course, it rang up real good after you got it out away from all the nails. But that's a classic example. And I found a large scent a year ago, and it was the same way. I got the signal one way, and it was up on edge.
Right. And chances are good those were both fairly deep as well.
Not really. The last one, how deep would you say that it was, Jeff?
6 inches? Maybe 6 inches? Yeah, at the most.
Oh, yeah. Wow. So that wasn't all that deep.
Yeah.
It wasn't that deep, but there were a ton of nails in the place.
Right.
Yeah,
I wish that I wish I'd have got all the nails out just so I could have told people, this large scent was in the hole with all these nails.
Oh, yeah. I like seeing video clips where people do that, too, because it's just a testament as to, if you've been working with your machine and you understand what it's telling you there's something there. You've just got to get the other targets out of there to get to that good target. And when you see all those nails along with the good target that you retrieve from the hole too, a lot of people almost look at it with a little bit of disbelief, like, oh, you couldn't have heard that. So it's a good testament to the machine.
Well, you don't hear them that well. I mean, you're just getting those little peeps that come in there, but you've got to slow down on a site that is covered up with a whole bunch of iron. I mean, that is the secret. And even going to a small core and getting down in those little nooks and crannies in between the grass or the weeds or what. And, we hunt a lot of thickets. And so, we don't have...
Yes, we do.
We were hunting the field here a couple of weeks ago, and neither one of us were happy with it. And so we finally I think it's on our next video, we finally found us a thicket and got up in there, and we started finding a little bit of stuff. But we're happy in the thickets, we don't mind them.
That's right. Yeah, sometimes that's where... Exactly. Sometimes that's how you make those finds, is you're going where no one else will. Either because they're not thinking of it or because they're looking at it going, oh, that's just too much work. Nobody could have lost anything there. I'll stay out here in the open.
Yeah, that's true. And then, like, up against trees or fence rolls. I mean, if you get right up against the fence, if you can, I have found a lot of Civil War relics right up against the fence lines. And, of course, a lot of colonial relics and Civil War relics right up against trees where nobody gets the coils up against the trees.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the best.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. One of the best tokens that I ever found was right under an electric fence. And I had hunted around, and you could only get so close to the electric fence, and then it would go to working on you some. And so I knew the landowner, and the landowner kind of came out and are you finding anything? I said, yeah, a little bit, And I said, what are the chances of you turning the electric fence off while I'm here? He said, I'll go do that right now. And right under the electric fence was one of the best tokens that I've ever found. It's an octagon, and it was out of Tennessee. I can't remember what the Gordon says tokens, and he's got all those smiley faces coming up in the chat.
Smiley faces.
Yeah, we love tokens.
Yeah, I need to post that, Gordon. I've been going to or wanting to, and I've been so busy that I hadn't had a chance to, but it's a beautiful token. It's out of Tennessee, north of Knoxville, I guess, was a little town there. So, and I want to do a shout out real quick before I forget it to a real good friend of Jeff and I that's on the chat here. It's Dave Miller. Supports our channel quite a bit, and I've seen him in there. Of course, there are just so many people that are here. Ohio Reddick Hunter, Mark Hoover, and Gordon, and Jesse, and Mike, and I mean, there are just so many. I don't want to leave anybody out, but did want to say something other to Dave because he said he was going to come on here tonight.
Yes, it's some nights it's real hard to keep track of everyone in the chat. We try to acknowledge everyone. Of course, you guys know that from doing Relics Radio. I hear you guys welcoming people to the chat as well, and it's great to do. But sometimes the chat's just moving so fast that unfortunately I miss a name here and there. But we always appreciate everyone for dropping in and welcome them all. Everyone's welcome. And
we're glad to have you. And
I guess especially Dave, the way it sounds, that gentleman's been ponying up some pinpointers for them giveaways.
He has. Thank you very much, Dave.
Yeah.
He did. He sponsored the last one. Jeff and I probably next week are going to start another pinpointer contest, and it is an anonymous gift from a person that doesn't want to be named, but you know who you are, and we certainly do appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely. That's very kind of them.
Yes, it is, and it's a lot of fun for us, and evidently it's fun for this individual as well, to put that money up to, and those things are not cheap,
No, absolutely
No, they're not.
That is true. They are not. And the way it sounds, hopefully this upcoming contest will last a little longer for you guys, because it seems like no sooner than you guys came up with the idea for the last one, it was over.
And Josh,
we've got to find something good.
It had been a year since I'd found a large cent. It had been 3 years since Jeff had found one. And the other one that we ran on the harmonica reed deal, because any of you that followed our channel from the 1st of January, you know that we were like 3 episodes into the year, and on the 4th episode, I found a harmonica reed, and I said, I think I found one in every episode. I'll have to go back and look, and I did, and I had found a harmonica reed in every episode. And just every episode, I was finding at least one. And so me and Jeff were at an old house, and I said, let's just start a contest. And we're going to give away a Predator shovel. If you can guess what episode will be the last one that I find one. So
what
we
episode
did that,
and
it ran a long time, longer than I thought that it would.
You've got a 5-gallon bucket full of harmonica reeds is what you've got.
I've got a bunch. I sure do. And it was just an anomaly that happened. So then we said, we want to do another one. And I said, let's stretch it out a little bit and do a large cent. Well, Jeff went and found a large cent on that site that I found mine the week before. And, we hadn't even started the contest. And so I said, well, we'll go ahead and start it now, and then I find one the first week. But we got a plan, don't we, Jeff, what we're going to do this
We
time.
do.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
It's going to be a gold coin. If we put up a contest and then that's what we find immediately, we're going with a gold coin. Why not?
Hey, there
why
you
not?
go. Yeah. I mean, if it works, I'd turn around and put up another contest for a gold coin and just try to keep digging gold coins.
Yeah, we're going after a CS buckle next. So maybe the gold coin, then a CS buckle. Just depends on.
Well, it sounds like you're certainly setting the goals high there, but that's good. It's something to strive for.
I don't know if I don't know exactly what we're going to do. We haven't had a chance to sit down and talk about it. It's not going to be a gold coin because I don't. I think that there's a good possibility that we could find one because we hunt enough Civil War sites and old sites, but
Absolutely.
It's not a practical goal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
So you're trying to set the goals high, but yet still keep them fairly attainable.
Yeah. We don't want to try to find something that nobody's, like maybe 10 people out of the relic hunting world has found. So, I mean, of course, I know there's been several gold coins found in the relic hunting world, but, I mean, really, none of our close friends have ever found one, so, that we've relic hunted with.
It does happen, and it seems to happen when you least expect it, but then again, with the relic hunters, that's one of the reasons why it happens, because you guys are out there digging everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of my finds have been unexpected. I found a trime on a Civil War site, and it wasn't 2 inches. It wasn't 2 inches deep. And I'll tell you the honest truth. I thought it was one of those little tabs off of a kid's drink whenever I first seen it. I thought it was aluminum, and I popped it out and I said, it's one of those little aluminum things. And then I picked it up and I seen the.
What about the Confederate stirrup I found? Well, the Confederate spur I found, that was, I mean, we had no idea that would even be there.
No, probably shouldn't have been there, because that's the only Civil War related thing that we found.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what, Josh,
and right off the back of the truck.
Right off the back of the truck, we stopped and got us a drink, and we had both been hunting for probably 2.5 hours at the place, and he swung, and I said, well, we don't wear headphones. And I said, that sounds good. And he said, sounds almost too good. I said, well, get it out of the way. It's probably a beer can or something. He dug it up, and it was a spur,
Way to start off with a bang.
Oh, yes. And, I mean, I'd changed metal detectors, and I was ground balanced. I ground balanced my metal detector right behind the truck, and then I made like 2 swings just to check it out, and bam, there it was.
Well, and that is another good point. I know that obviously with Seven being in since the 70s, he's had the opportunity to use a number of detectors, and I know he's got a number of them in his arsenal. Between the two of you, how many detectors do you normally take out with you?
Well, we try to take, of course, I've got 3. I try to take all 3. And it just in case, I mean, you never know where you're going to hunt. I mean, you may find a spot where we can use the GPX, or most of the time when we're hunting colonial sites, it's either I use the Racer 2 or the AT Pro. So I just swap up, I'll go over.
I only take 2 with me now. I sold my CTX, and it's not that I don't like a CTX. The CTX is a great machine if you're door knocking in your hunting yards or if you're hunting parks. I mean, there is not a better machine, and I found a world of stuff with my CTX. But when you're hunting in a nail-infested colonial site, there is nothing that beats, in my mind, I'd say a Deus would be a good machine in it, but I've used the AT Pro so long that I love it, and I take it, and I take my GPX if we get in a spot that we can use it. Of course, you can't use a GPX in an iron-infested place. It's got to be relatively clean for you to do that, you know, or it'll drive you crazy.
Yeah, you'll get pretty aggravated fairly quick, because when it comes to pulse induction, I tell people a lot of times the question you have to ask yourself with a pulse induction machine is, how deep do you want to dig a nail?
That's exactly right.
Yep, that is.
I mean, if
I know we were hunting DIV.
Right.
We were hunting DIV. It was a couple of years ago with a good friend of mine. Of course, I think he was using the 15-inch coil on his GPX 5000. And, of course, we were pretty much looking for hut sites. And so he got this good deep signal, and he kept on digging. And probably about maybe 3.5 foot down, he ended up finding a Pepsi can where the farmer had moved some ground, and he thought it was a plate or something, but it ended up being a Pepsi can. So there he dug that deep for just a Pepsi can. But I mean, it could have very easily been something real good. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You're kind of getting that catch-22 situation where you've just got to dig it. I mean, you can't leave it, because if you do, you're going to be questioning yourself the rest of the day. Did I walk on something good? It's better just to get it out of the ground and be done with it.
In the chat, everybody's throwing up their detectors that they use. There's a Deus. Somebody said an AT Pro. Jesse said that in nails, the 3030, you had to open to a clear screen, fast off and deep off, and swing slow. I agree. I did that.
Right.
And it will work there, but and it's all about tone. I know what the AT Pro is saying, and so does Jeff. Jeff is really good with one. He's a hard man to beat, and so I love the tones on it, and I'm able to listen to the nails. I'm able to listen to everything that's in the ground, and then I pick out what I want to dig, you know.
Right. Yeah, ultimately, in the end, you are the final discriminator.
That's exactly right. And somebody can do that with a CTX. Somebody can do that with a T2. Somebody can do that with the wax machine that they run, because they know what the machine is telling them. And that's the most important thing that any beginner can understand, is get you a good machine and then stick with it until you know everything that it's telling you, and then believe it, you know.
Absolutely. You've got to build up trust in what the machine is telling you, and trust what it's telling you. Put that time in so you can understand what it's saying. After that, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Find what works for you and keep at it.
That's right.
And if Jeff will tomorrow go outside and take a picture of the back end of his truck, there's probably a ton of iron in the back of his truck. We dig a lot of iron, don't we, Jeff?
We do. And I mean, it hadn't been long since I cleaned it out. And but yeah, there's a ton now, so.
Well, you take it into the scrapyard, and that helps cover batteries and fuel and maybe even a meal while you two are out hunting.
Oh, yeah, it does. And, of course, I've got a big pile next to my garage. And, then, of course, every now and then I'll throw all my iron out there for at least a year or so. And if I'm looking through the books or whatever and I see an iron piece that I recognize, and it's like, hey, I found one of them, and then I'll go back out there and dig it out of that iron pile and then do electrolysis and display it. So, but after that, I mean, like your nails and the stuff that you know is trash, I pretty much just take to the scrapyard.
Right. Well, and it still helps keep the environment clean.
Mm-hmm.
Gordon wants to know if we found any cannonballs. I have found 3 fragments, probably a third, each one of them about a third the size of a cannonball. They were exploded. The good thing about it is I know that John Hunt Morgan and his raiders fired these cannonballs out of what they call the bullpup, and they were firing into a camp that had the 9th Pennsylvania Union troops. And I found 3 of those, and the landowner actually found 2 that were about the same size. But you're not going to get a cannonball if you don't dig a bunch of iron either. You know, Bird Dog will tell you that. You're not going to get a bayonet. You're not going to get an iron heel plate. You're not going to get a gun part. That's right, a gun tool. Any of those things. I mean, in an old colonial site or a Civil War site, you dig everything that repeats.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're starting to pull up stuff like spikes or axe heads or hammer heads or something like that, then you're in that right range. If it's there, you're going to find it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What about that new site that we found, Jeff, the other day off from where what did I find there? 3 straight targets.
3 axe heads. Yep. I mean, and of course, there was a lot of big iron in that area, and then I still got a bunch of it in my truck. Of course, I took the axe head and give them to the landowner. Of course, he was wanting them, and of course, I did find that suspender clip out there, and it's still. I mean, there's still a lot of stuff left there. We just hit it for a few minutes, and we left it, and then of course we'll have it to go back to.
And I guess, obviously, for those who may not follow the YouTube channel Digging with 7, why don't you let them know, how did the history clips begin?
Kind of by accident, I think, because I can't remember the first one that I did, but I did one, and I was identifying something that I found that was unusual, and it had a little bit of history behind it. And got a few comments on it, and then the next video I had something, and so started getting some comments and people saying that they liked that, and Jeff and I talked about it, and I said, that would be probably a pretty good feature to put in, because you're able to take something that we know what it is, but somebody else might not know, what it is or how it was used, like the Williams cleaner bullet. People didn't know about that, did they, Jeff? Most of them.
No, they sure didn't. I mean, they knew they didn't like them. They thought of accuracy, but I mean, of course,
not to mention they kicked like a mule.
Apart in your gun a lot of times. Yeah.
But that's good, though. It's a way that everybody can learn a little bit of something.
It is. And before it passes me by here, Gary Heckman asked, where was this 7 in what state? I guess probably talking about the cannonballs. We hunt Kentucky and Tennessee. This camp is in Kentucky, southern Kentucky. But yeah, that's the way the history clips got started. And we had such a good response on them that we just continued to do them. It's a lot of work on the history clips. I probably spend more time on them than I do researching a place to hunt and the actual hunting. I spend more time on research than on the history clip.
Or even the video editing part of the video work, because that's another thing. A lot of people that don't do YouTube videos. I mean, Ohio Relic Hunter in the chat does, and there's a number of the rest of them in there in the chat that do, and I do as well with the Ohio Metal Detecting channel. We know that when you see a video on YouTube, it's easy for somebody to just stop and watch and, oh, that was neat. But they don't realize how much time actually went into that video between getting the clips during the hunt and trying to clean everything up, maybe some pictures of them cleaned up, and then the intensive work that goes into just editing, putting it all together, making it move seamlessly, and then the upload process to actually get it to where people can just click a button and watch.
It's a lot of work. I've got a system, and it works out for me. So, Gary Heckman said, what state did we find the John Hunt Morgan relics in? That's in Kentucky. John Hunt Morgan, on his first Kentucky raid, his first battle was about a mile from my house here. And so that's in southern Kentucky. I'm not going to give any more information than that. But
right.
It's in southern Kentucky, and you can research that. and find out about it. Sheldon said he loves the history clips, so thank you, Sheldon. We love you watching them and commenting on them. And you know, how long did I work on? What history clip was it, Jeff? That it was your heart, wasn't it, that you found? You might
yes,
tell
it was.
About that.
Yeah, the Corps badge. What was it? 16 hours.
16 hours on of research on a lead heart that Jeff found in a Union Civil War camp. We knew it was a Corps badge, and we knew the soldiers that were there. The only problem was there were no soldiers in the 24th Corps that would have had the shape of a heart. There were no 24th Corps there.
Well, that goes and complicates things right off the bat for you.
It does, and so I just kept researching, and I finally came up, just accidentally, I'm sure, I came up on a page, or actually 2 pages out of a soldier's diary, where he hand drew each of the Corps badge shapes. He gave the Corps, and he gave the commander of that Corps. And he had the 13th of McClelland with a heart for a little while. Of course, the 24th had the heart, and then the 13th had it for a little while, and the 24th won out. And so that makes that rare, because it was probably only used by the 13th Corps less than a year. And then it was taken away from them and given to the 24th. And so there's Barb come in.
Oh, well, she did make it. Yep. I know she was looking forward to it as long as she got her traveling done in time, because she was on the road for Florida, I believe.
Well, she's getting around then, isn't she?
Oh, yeah. She's always on the trail somewhere, it seems like. You just can't slow that woman down.
You were talking about on History Clip. It still amazes me, you know, whenever you can just take a simple item, and when you know, if somebody's seen that item on a video that you find, like a dinner utensil from a colonial house, I mean, it's such a simple find, and there's just not that much to it. I did a history clip here recently whenever Dave Miller and his group came up and hunted with me. We didn't find anything that really warranted a history clip, but his buddy Mike found a colonial dinner knife. And so I thought, well, you know, I'll look into the colonial dinner utensils and everything. And I found out that the fork was a dinner utensil that years and years ago was really frowned upon by the clergy, because they said God gave you fingers to eat with, and you're trying to replace them with a metal object, a fork. And I had no idea about that history, and it was really interesting whenever I put the whole clip together. And I learned something each week, and I think our viewers learned something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I do too.
Because we always tend to say, wow, you know, if our finds could talk, the stories they could tell would be just simply amazing. And this is a way for these items to kind of tell a backstory as to, you know, what this find was significant for, or why it was so significant, the story behind the find, how it came to be, and all of that.
That's true. And you find a few finds every now and then. If you look in the look at the find, research the find and everything, there is a good possibility that you can put a family name or even a person with it. I was fortunate when we hunted the Gallatin camp to find a first lieutenant's shoulder bar, and we did research on that, and we actually were able to put a name with that guy that wore that soldier or shoulder bar and lost it. And that's one of my favorite finds.
Yes, that is very cool. I mean, we all like to find old coins and tokens and stuff, but when you can get to things like that you can tie to a specific person and make that kind of a personal find, it seems like many times those finds have much more significance and meanings to the people that recovered them. And it's that much more of a sense of accomplishment when you're showing that to one of your buddies in your display case.
That's true. Oh, it sure is. And if you can get a picture with the find of the first lieutenant, that would be even better.
Absolutely, yeah, I would agree.
We didn't get that. I'm on Fold, a site called Fold 3, and you can get a lot of stuff off of it. And of course, the official records and things. Of course, the official records don't have pictures, but there is a site that is associated with that has a lot of Civil War pictures that have been preserved. And we looked and looked and never did find a picture of this lieutenant. But it was still a great find and able to put his name to it. So I guess if I'm giving any hunters or any new people coming into the hobby any information out of all this is, look at the finds that you find and do a little bit of research on them, because you may have something that is really, really special if you just look into it.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
The pristine I found.
Do what?
The pristine I found, I thought it was just another cut silver. And then, of course, come to find out it was 1721, and that was before Tennessee was even thought of, so.
Yeah, it's a pistorine.
Pistorine, yeah. Okay. And then you done a good history clip on it.
Yeah, it was, that was a good find. Jeff always finds something, I mean, if
well, like you said, he's a hard man to beat.
He is a hard man to beat, but he's a hard man to keep out of your line too. If you find something, one bad thing about not wearing headphones is that he hears those good signals that you're hearing, and it's not but just a minute until you go to swing and you're bumping coils with the guy.
Right, I'll just kind of work over this way a little bit.
I'm not that way.
No, I'm just kidding on him. No, Jeff is a good hunter, real good hunter. And I've told Jeff. Jeff had a YouTube channel. I had a YouTube channel. We were both doing videos independent of one another, and they were decent channels. I believe that both of them were. But we are so much better together than we were separate. So the sum of the parts is more than the whole, if you want to put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and
I mean, we like.
It's a great thing when you can find somebody to hunt with like that, and you guys have a certain synergy about you.
Mm-hmm. And we like the same hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we do. And we've got a chemistry. And people that are as old as I am, you saw that chemistry play out in shows like, the Andy Griffith Show, where you had Andy and Barney. They played off of one another, and that was the success of that show. And Jeff and I kind of do the same thing. We don't rehearse the things.
What are you calling me, Barney Fife now?
Well, depending on the day, he may have a bullet in his pocket.
Yeah, who's going to be Aunt B? I'll tell Jennifer she's Aunt B. And I guess Avery can be Opie.
Yeah, that's Opie. That's Opie.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, there's just a chemistry there, and we film what we call the talking clips. That started kind of by accident too. We sat down on a log one day and kind of rehearsed just kind of went over what we had done that day. And some people said, we'd like to see you guys just sit around and talk just a little bit. And so we started kind of doing that. We don't rehearse any of those. I remember at Gallatin, we were talking, and then all of a sudden he slaps me on the side of the face and said he killed a mosquito. You never know what the guy's going to do, I mean, he's just a natural comedian.
Right. Well, we were sitting there one day very well together that way.
We were sitting there like one of our first talking section. Of course, it was 105 degrees. It was during I think July, August, something like that. And Of course, we was in the middle of a cedar thicket, and he said, well, let's do our talking clip right here. Sit down right there next to that cedar tree, and you could see the ticks crawling around on the ground. And I was like, I'm not sitting right there. And then so finally he ended up, we got the ticks out of the way and all the snakes, and we finally sat down where we could make a talking clip. So
yeah,
he's
see,
big
look
about
at all the
talking
work
clip.
that goes into that.
Yeah. And then all the
there is a lot of
chiggers.
Well, what sort of cameras do you guys like to use for your YouTube?
You know, most everything that you see on our videos is shot with an iPhone 7 Plus. Almost
Nice.
everything. Now I've got a GoPro, and we do that some as a wide angle shot. And I'll give you a little tip on that. I will start the GoPro and set it up at a distance, and then I've got an external mic that I run on my iPhone 7 Plus. And when we sit down, I'll set the external mic close enough to us that you can get both of us with clarity and not a lot of noise and everything. And I clap my hands 3 times, and then that gives me a cue whenever I go to editing. I bring in the audio of the GoPro, the video of the GoPro with the audio, and then I bring in the iPhone 7 stuff. But I take the audio off of the iPhone 7 and the video off the GoPro, and you're able to line that up with the 3 hand claps
Right.
so that you sync the mouth with the video. And that way we're able to get a great distance away. And I've had some people say, how in the world, y'all are a long way from the camera, but it sounds like that you're just right there on the mic. Well, we really are.
That mic picks you up well.
Yeah.
He just talks loud.
Well,
Right.
there's a lot of production. There's a lot of production stuff that you do behind the scenes that nobody knows about, but it helps your video.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
it
I mean,
does.
a lot of times we have to stop hunting like 30 minutes before we really want to, just to where we could get our stuff done, like our talking clips and just a few things like that. So, there is a lot that goes into it.
Absolutely, and I'm sure you guys have probably had days where it's like, I want to get out and dig. Let's not even break the camera out. Let's just dig and enjoy the day.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do that.
No,
we don't go and dig and not film, because to me, the fun of it is putting a show together.
Being able to share it
in
with
fact,
everyone.
Right. And Jeff and I have talked about it. It's hard for Jeff and I to get together. And since Avery's come along, it's harder and harder for us to get together. And it's almost, if I go out and I make a good find by myself, or Jeff goes out and makes a good find by himself, we say
it's not the same.
That was a wasted find, and it is. And I just don't like to do it. But
Right.
we're trying to do what we can right now to. And I'm having to do some solo hunts and some kind of semi-solo videos right now until we can get things kind of worked out. But I don't like to do it. I love hunting with him, and I love doing the filming. It runs me to death a lot of times, but I love doing it.
Well, and doing it in that aspect like that, it also preserves those memories that are going to last you a lifetime. I know there's been times where I've tried to go out and thought, well, I'm not even going to film today, and then you make some sort of a find and you're going, man, I can't not film it. I have to film. Well, I guess I'm doing a video anyway.
Yeah, that's right. I've done that a few times, and have to go back to the truck to get my camera, and then of course, because it's a good find, or more or less just documenting the find, and then where you found it, and then all that is the main reason I got into filming the videos. And then of course, after me and Lloyd got together, and his videos are a lot better than mine were on my channel, and then of course he does a great job at doing the history clips and all that with the videos. So I just kind of let him take the video part over, and then I just do the door knocking and try to get permissions.
So it's still teamwork, and you just kind of said, well, here, you can take the reins from here for the video editing, and I'll leave that in your neighborhood, and I'll still take care of this end.
Mm-hmm. Jeff is a great researcher, and, we each have our strengths. But, I do research on the history clips, and I may be pretty good at that, but he's a good researcher, and he's good at finding sites to hunt. The better sites that we hunt are all Jeff's sites. And, so we each bring something to the table in this partnership that we have. And, we both work hard at it. And hopefully, it's people like it.
Well, it looks like it's paying off well for both of you. Good teamwork, kind of pool the resources that way.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that at all. So, how did you two then, because, you two met up and you started hunting together as a team and doing the videos together and all of that. And then all of a sudden, somewhere along the line, somebody gets the idea, hey, let's start doing our own podcast. We're going to call it Relics Radio.
I'll let Lloyd take this one over. Of course, he's the one who put up the podcast, and then, of course, he went into doing that. He mentioned it, and I thought, well, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. Of course, I'd never really had him. Actually, to be honest, I didn't know what a podcast was until Lloyd said something about it, and I started researching. And then, of course, I'd watched a couple of podcasts before, and of course, not knowing what they were. And then, of course, I told Lloyd, I said, well, that sounds like a fun thing, so let's go ahead, and I'll let him take over. He put it all together, so.
Well, now, Jeff thought a podcast was an outdoor toilet to start with. Of course, now you got to remember that we're off in the sticks. We're country boys, But I've been involved in studio work for most of my life, and a podcast was just another branch of that, really. And I told him, I said, I think it will help us. Here's my thinking on it. We talked about doing live YouTube, but, I don't know that people want to come to YouTube and watch an hour or 2 hour YouTube. But with a podcast, you've got the archive, and I travel back and forth to Nashville a couple of times a week, and I got to where I picked up on your show. I very seldom commented on it because I very seldom caught them live, but I listen to your shows, and I listen to, the other podcasts that deal with metal detecting, and you can listen to those, and you don't have to pay attention to the device that you're listening on. It's just like listening to the radio. And so I told Jeff, I said, I believe we can do that and reach another portion of the metal detecting community by doing that. And
absolutely.
I don't know how it's eventually going to work out, but we're having a lot of fun with it, and still trying to learn. And I've got Josh to thank. I've been his ear a little bit over the past couple of weeks and called him a couple of times with some questions, and he's been very gracious to us to help us out. Of course, we're not in competition. This is a community. We're all trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, and, we're all on the same page. We all have the same goals and everything, and that's just to, enjoy the hobby and spread the knowledge and have fun at it.
That's exactly right. And Jeff and I are, we want your podcast to succeed and just, go beyond all expectations. It would tickle us to death, for you to have the kind of success that I know that you want to have. And because, we don't think that we're competitors. We're in the same community that you are. And, if you do well, it helps all of us.
Right, exactly. And likewise, vice versa, because many of us that listen to these other podcasts and other shows that have to do with the hobby, it's not all that uncommon that we'll hear other shows mentioned and other groups, kind of like a cross-promotional type thing.
That's right. And then you take people like like Gordon has been real instrumental here lately with on the Token Facebook group. He's promoted us quite a bit, and we appreciate that, and I try to promote their side as much as I can, and they help us and we help them, and I think that that's the way it ought to go.
Right, exactly. I agree. It's all basically a bunch of friends helping one another.
That's what it is. I mean, of course, I need to get with Gordon. I've got a few tokens I need to have him look at. So.
Oh yeah, get those posted up. We love to see tokens. Of course, then again, for many of us, we just love to see finds, period. We don't care if they're tokens or bullets or, relics or coins or any of that. We just love to see what's being found.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have what you have in the area in which you live. I know a lot of people would love to be able to find Civil War relics, but you don't live in an area where they're found. Jeff and I would love to find large cents, but we don't live in an area where a lot of them were lost.
Right, and, unless you give away a pinpointer.
Yeah, unless you give that's it. Unless you
unless you're giving away a pinpointer.
But you say we live in a spot that don't have many large cents, and then here we go out a week and find one. So I mean, then people's gonna be like, hey, I thought you said there wasn't many large cents around, but actually there's not. I mean, there's not very many large cents around, but
right.
I mean, he just got lucky to find that one.
Well, still a good find though.
Oh yes, it was. It was a great find.
And I'm sure
I was tickled to death with it.
The name escapes me right offhand who the gentleman was that had won that pinpointer, but I'm sure he was very tickled to be able to interact in the contest and win, and also get to see you make a nice find like that, especially for an area that's not necessarily a common find.
That's true. And Jeff was across the field whenever I found it. Now, the landowner was next to me. And whenever I saw it in the hole and started to pull it out, you hear somebody talking beside me, and that was the landowner who he came and bush hogged the whole field for us, and came out and hunted with us, and he's just a wonderful guy. And he's sitting there talking to me, and you can hear him. He says, "Oh, that's a Cohen," and I'm rubbing it off and everything, and I'm pretty sure it's a large cent, And I rub it off, and he said, that's a, and I said, that's a large cent. And he said, oh, and then I holler across to Jeff, and I said, we're going to give a pinpointer away. Well, here he comes walking, and he said, and I said, yeah, we're going to give a pinpointer away. He said, I know we're going to give a pinpointer away sometime. And, yeah, and I said, well, we're going to give a pinpointer away today. And he said, no, you didn't yell loud enough. And the landowner said he didn't want to scare the horses. And
that's what he said.
And a bunch of cows. And but it took Jeff by surprise, and it did me as well.
Well, and you can clearly tell that in the video as well. That Jeff was definitely surprised to see you happen to manage to come up with a large cent that soon after announcing.
I know, and I thought, Lloyd finally found a large cent. What's going on? But I'm glad he found it. If there was, I wouldn't want nobody else to found it but him. So.
Right, I even recall in the video you saying it's been a year since you found a large cent. I thought it would have went longer.
I know, and we thought it would too, but it didn't. But it was great. We had a lot of fun with it, and we really enjoyed doing it, and really enjoyed giving away the pinpointer, and we're looking forward to the next one. By the way, Mark Burns was the guy that won that, and there were actually two guys. There were actually two guys that were in the running for that, and that was that contest was only up for a week. and we had over 200 entries in that contest in a week.
Yeah, that's what I was
going to say.
Imagine. You had a number of entries in such a short amount of time, so that just goes to show that people are enjoying and watching your videos, and hopefully continued success with it.
Well, I hope that they realize too that that's a phase of our partnership that we really enjoy giving things away like that when we can get the support that we need in order to do that, and we kind of seek that out to try to come up with a way to give some things away and make things interesting and make things fun for our viewers.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to give away a metal detector. If we could get some company to sponsor us in that. We don't want them to give us a metal detector. I don't mind buying my own, but if we could get someone to support us and give one of those away, would love to see a kid or a newcomer in the hobby, get a metal detector like that. And I know that Matt Purdue did that, and I think it's a great thing whenever you're able.
Yeah, didn't he get? He ended up giving a couple of them away.
Yes, he has.
Yeah, I guess he probably has, and that's a great thing for the hobby.
Absolutely, I agree. We do occasionally do some giveaways on the show here or through the grouper page. It's definitely nice to make somebody's day with a little something nice to give away like that. Unfortunately, like you said, it's a little hard to come up with funding to be able to do that on a consistent basis. So it certainly is appreciated when people do show their support that way for you guys.
Yeah, it is. And we want the people to know, that that's something that we want to do and, want to try to accomplish and do as much as we can. And like we say, we've got another contest that's coming up here probably in another week or so. We'll get together this week and figure out what we're going to do. And I'll put a video up and hopefully it'll run I'd like for it to run 90 days, I think is good for a contest to kind of keep people, you're trying to keep people at your channel watching the videos. And so whenever you give it away in a week, it really doesn't help you that much.
That is true.
Well, they start looking at it like, well, hey, this channel's giving away free pin pointers every week. We better go to this channel. So
right. Yeah, it does kind of tend to draw people to a flame like moths sometimes, but
it does.
It is appreciated though. I'm sure, like the gentleman that just won this pinpointer from the large scent find. I'm sure he was very appreciative of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was, and he was a guy that was already associated with our channel as a subscriber.
That's even better.
It is better, but it didn't matter to me. Either one of those guys, both of those guys were great people. And Jesse wanted to know what night is Relic Radio on. We're on Thursday night, and we're going to start doing that every Thursday night. We're going to have a guest every other Thursday night, but Jeff and I are going to do it solo and try to take some call-ins on
the Q&A kind of.
Yeah, a little Q&A on every other Thursday night, but that is 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. That'd be 7 o'clock Eastern Time on Spreaker on Thursday nights. So we're trying to not butt heads with somebody else that's doing a show.
Right, there's plenty of room for everybody, and they can find out about all that very easily if they just search Spreaker for Relics Radio and click that follow button. Click that follow button. You can follow the show. You'll know when they're going live and all of that, and be able to catch up on archives too. If say people are just tuning in tonight and maybe only hearing about Relic Radio just now, they can go back and they can catch your past two episodes with Keebs and with Bird Dog, because those were both very good shows, very enjoyable, and your background in music definitely reflects in the episodes. The audio is very crisp and clear.
Yeah. Well, we have coming up, and we're trying to branch out and include as many different kind of hunting, different styles of metal detecting as we can. We're going to have Plugmaster Ford on. Now, he does a lot of Civil War hunting, but he does a lot of door knocking. Him and his buddy Mac, Missouri Mac. And so we're going to have him on, not this Thursday, but the next Thursday. And then we're going to have the Silver Sniffer out in California on
nice.
Sometime in December, because he hunts the beaches, and that's a different kind of hunting. And so we're trying to appeal to as many different audiences in the community as we can, and get a hold of some guys. All of those guys are fun. I mean, if you watch their videos, you know that they're outgoing, and they're just great people. And if you go to watching their videos, I know you're going to love every one of them. And so those are the kind of people that we want on.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes metal detecting or treasure hunting is kind of it's a generic all-encompassing term, because our hobby is so vast and faceted that there's really something for everyone.
There is.
There sure is. I mean, if you get a gold panner, or I seen on one of yours, the Meteorite Man was on.
Oh yeah, Steve Arnold.
That was a good show. I listened to it earlier today. So,
and Josh had Addison Kimmel on, who was an archaeologist, and that was a real interesting podcast. Learned some things
very
from
informative.
Him,
Yeah, we really enjoyed talking with Addison, and we do hope to have him back again sometime soon. He really enjoyed himself. I think, being an archaeologist and getting into metal detecting as well, he's found that both sides of the communities basically play an integral part, and we can work well together, and it would do nothing but benefit both communities.
Jesse said, I tried silver sniffing one time and got a mercury dime stuck in my nose.
Yeah, see, he should have went for something a little larger, maybe a Walker half or something.
Maybe so. That's the kind of guy we like to have on our program, somebody that's got a sense of humor like that. And I've heard a lot about Jesse. You know, Jesse's called in on some of those. He does a lot of research and everything. Don't know him that well, just starting to learn about him, but he's got a lot of fine qualities.
Well, yes, he does, and I can speak from experience. I've had a number of conversations with Jesse. I've personally met him. He's an absolutely wonderful person, and that's one of the great things that I love about this hobby, is the paths that each other cross, where you find those friendships and those teams and stuff like that, where those are the true treasures.
Yeah, it is. And Jeff and I have been fortunate. We're fortunate to hunt with a lot of different people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where was it that we went and spoke, Jeff, last?
Let's see, we went to the Middle Tennessee Metal Detecting Club here in Nashville, Tennessee, and there was a lot of great guys there. I mean, we had a great time, and of course, we've got a local historian. His name's Bob, and he invited us down. Of course, we'd been hunting the construction site here in Sumner County. Actually, they're putting a new bank in, and it was part of the main camp in this town in Gallatin, and we'd found I found 3 box plates and several Civil War bullets and stuff, and of course they wanted us to come to the Metal Detecting Club and speak about it. So, but yeah, we went there and we had a great time speaking about it, and like I said, a lot of great guys. And then of course we have a upcoming date in Murfreesboro, the Detecting Club there. And then,
nice.
Lloyd, do you know what dates that are?
I don't. I talked to, there were some of those guys there at Nashville, and Ron with Dig Dogs had already contacted me and wanted Jeff and I to come and speak to them about techniques and our research and how we approach a site and just the general things, associated with our kind of hunting. And I told him that we would come if we could get a date and everything worked out. And he's got an idea of trying to get several of some of the well-known people on YouTube that metal detect, getting a lot of us together there and actually having a hunt, and then let us speak that night. So that would be a real treat to be able to speak in front of a group like that. Yeah.
Absolutely, that would be. And that's one of the great things, too. I'm sure you guys have gotten messages probably just out of the blue. Hey, I caught this Relics Radio episode, or I just saw a video back on the Digging with Seven channel, and thanks, because you guys really inspire me to get out, or anything like that. It's really great to hear that constructive feedback and stuff, and see for yourselves the impact that you two have on other people's lives that are involved with the hobby, where you may have inspired someone else to get involved with the hobby or to do things a little more professionally or something like that. And then you get to hear about it. I'm sure that means a lot for either of you guys.
Oh, yes, it does. Actually, my wife, she works at a hair salon, and of course she had a man and his son would come in. They'd come in maybe once a month to get a haircut, and of course they'd seen her last name and then asked her if she was related to me, and come to find out they'd been watching the YouTube channel, and then of course that's one of their main things, to watch our YouTube channel. And then of course she was like, wow, and my husband on the YouTube, and they was like, well, yeah, we watch him every Tuesday, and then we can't wait till the next one comes out, and then blah blah. It was a small world, and we had no idea. But there's been several people like message me and like on Facebook or YouTube and say, "Well, you inspired me to get out and go hunting today," and stuff like that. And I was like, "Well, gee, man, I didn't realize that I was going to do all this, but hey, if it helps, it helps."
Yeah, that's kind of the icing on the cake.
We don't realize the impact or the influence that we have on people.
Absolutely.
And we try to be respectful to every viewer that we have. I take the time, it's hard to do, but I take the time to answer everybody that comments on any of our videos. Because if they've taken the time to watch that video and then taken the time to comment on that video, I think it's incumbent upon me to try and respond to that. And, to say something to them. But more than once, you've had people say, wow, I watched this and I'm fixing to go out and go hunting right now. You've just, you've really, kind of reminds me of a story. We live in a rural neighborhood here, and, a place that we hunt quite a bit is on the Cumberland River called Turkey Neck Bend. And my wife and I, there was a little store there. And we went to that store on one Saturday, and these guys had evidently been out drunk all night, had long beards and long hair and everything, and I couldn't tell what one of them was eating, but he's sitting on a bench out in front of the store. And he had something just hanging all in his beard, and he's just wobbling all like he's going to fall off. And the other guy had went in the store, and he asked the storekeeper, come to find out this guy was eating sardines out there. And he come in there, and the guy that owned the store was a Smith, and the other guy was drunk too, still drunk from a long party night. And
right.
He said, Mr. Smith, you got any more of them possum sardines? He said, Fred done flung a craving on me. So I guess that's what we do to people. We fling a craving on them that they want to go out.
Well, that's true. That's true, and you just never know who you're going to wind up motivating to, get out there and maybe try something different, or just they watched your video and they're saying, oh, that's it. I can't take it anymore. I gotta get out and dig something. He's inspired me to get out and dig.
Or who you eventually meet. And that's what's good about
we meet
the
a lot of good people.
That's what I like about the DIV hunts. We get to meet people that watch our videos and talk to us, and we watch their videos, and then go into these clubs and speaking, and we get to meet we put a face behind a name, and that's worth everything in the world to us.
Oh, absolutely. I would agree. That really does. I mean, a lot of people don't realize it. It only takes them just a minute or two maybe to say hello or send that message or something, but much like you were saying, we don't realize the impact that we may have on some people. They don't realize the impact that they have reciprocating like that when they send a message like that to one of us saying, hey, that really helped me. I appreciate what you've done.
It means the world to us.
Absolutely.
We're humbled by it.
We are. We sure
are. We're just a couple of rednecks with a couple of detectors out in the thickets. That's all that we are. And we try to have fun, and we try to put that over in what shows that we do on YouTube. And we just try to have a good time. And it humbles us that we have the following that we do.
Right. And as you mentioned too, it is hard sometimes to reply to all of those comments, especially as your channel grows. But it can take up a lot of time, but that is nice for the viewers to see that little bit of recognition. Hey, the guy took time and replied to my comment, even though all I said was nice job or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And
Lori does do a good job. Lori does do a good job of going back and replying to all the comments. I mean, of course, I'll go through and you can see where he's replied to every one of them. It don't matter if it's 2,000. He stays up all night, I guess, and then replies back to comments all night long.
Well, they come in on my smartphone, so I don't have to be sitting at a computer. I can be anywhere, and it comes in on my smartphone, and I can pick up 2 or 3 as they come in. Of course, our videos come out every Tuesday on YouTube, and the channel's called Digging with Seven. And Tuesday morning is a little hectic, and on into Tuesday night. But then you'll have more comments that come in, and so I can pick up 2 or 3 at a time, and it's not that you're just sitting down all the time. And Gordon said, that we responded to all of their replies. Mm-hmm. And I think I feel the same way about the podcast. When people come on there, I want to recognize, everybody that comes on. I know it's impossible to do because you have such a huge audience that listens to you and is on the chat. But, hey, guys, we appreciate every one of you listening to us tonight. And, if you listen to
we really do.
We'll do the best we can to holler and say, the last one's up on mine is Mark Hoover. Mark Hoover's in the house, Ohio Relic Hunter. Barb's in the house, and Gordon's in the house. We appreciate that because there's so many things that you guys could be doing right now than listening to a couple of rednecks talk about metal.
Well, we all do seem to kind of have to get our fix in a sense. It's good to be able to sit down and hear people talking shop and all of that, especially once we get into the time of year where, for those of us up north, we may not be able to hunt as long as someone can, say, in Tennessee or Georgia or even Kentucky. So it's nice to be able to have that little bit of respite, so to speak, where we're able to at least still interact vicariously through your videos or through other people's podcasts and stuff. It's that little thing that gets us through until we can get out and dig again.
Yeah, because y'all have some rough winters, and we sympathize with you guys on that. I know that's the time when you do a lot of research, when we're that's really our peak hunting season is fall and winter and spring. And, but we're going to try on the every other Thursday where we just have a Q&A to maybe get into some of the particulars of how we hunt a site, how we set up our machines or what have you, get a little bit more technical, but also give an opportunity to have people call in. I think that's if you've got a guest, it kind of limits you on your call in because, you kind of feel obligated to give your guest most of the time on a program. But if Jeff and I can pull it off, we're going to try to do that every other Thursday night where we can take some call-ins and get a chance to talk to all of you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, it's nice to hear from the listeners like that. And I would assume, let's see, this Thursday is actually Thanksgiving. Are you guys planning on going live or taking a break for the holiday?
It's up to Jeff. I mean, if he's game, I'm game. We might just stay on an hour, but if he wants to do it, because all we're going to do that day is just eat, and so that gives me an hour to get my big.
Well, I'll have to get back with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that's always something where if many of the listeners are out doing their holiday thing, they can still come back at a later point and catch that archive. That is one beauty about the archive.
Oh, they sure can.
Yeah, it is.
Much like you said, I know that there's a number of commuters and truck drivers and stuff like that's how they engage Beyond Sight and Sound, is they listen to it on their morning commute or while they're driving and just, stay satisfied with the archives.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And that's kind of why that was the appeal to me to a podcast, was to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I have had a number of people say that's how they tune into the show and stuff like that. But I've also had a few people say, man, you guys, sometimes you need to put a disclaimer out there because you had me laughing so hard I almost ran off the road.
Well, we try to do that too, and
right.
Try to reach as many as we can in whatever way that we can. But,
well, I would say it's certainly working very well for you and Jeff, and you guys do have a very good chemistry together.
Well,
I feel that we do.
I think the world of Jeff. I mean, he kids me about being the old man, and I kid him about being the kid. But I think the world of Jeff, and he's a great hunter. And I think that. I think I'm blessed that Jeff came into my life and I was able to hook up with him. And I think it was, he's my Barney.
that means a lot. I'm your Barney. I sent a comment earlier. I'll just get one bullet, but we had a comment on our podcast. It was our first podcast when we had but I had a comment. It asked if me and Loy was related, and then of course I was like, well, no. And then I said, well, Loy wish we was, but then just joking around. But anyway, no. If me and Loy was related, I mean, I couldn't find a better family to be related to as Loy's family. I mean, he's got a real good family, and Loy and his wife's are real good people. So, but then I'm blessed too to have him as a hunting partner. So
that is definitely awesome. That's great to see, and it's great to hear when people can, kind of meet up like that and find that chemistry, regardless of how many years one may have in the hobby. It all comes down to like-minded individuals like that, where you find that common ground, and it doesn't matter how much experience one may have over the other or anything like that. You work together very well.
Mm-hmm.
We do, and it's I'm having the time of my life right now, hunting with Jeff, finding the things that we find, and I'm humbled by the experience, and I treasure every moment that we're together hunting and all that we were able to accomplish with our videos or podcasts or Facebook channels or whatever, and the people that we get to meet, and so we're very fortunate.
I wish we could do it more.
Right.
I do too.
Well, I know you guys kind of had some schedule changes to be able to make it to the show tonight and everything, and we've probably kept you guys on for quite some time, but before we get out of here, why don't you guys let everybody know where they can find either of you and plug the YouTube channel and the podcast and the pages and such?
Okay, I'll go first, and I'll let you let Jeff tell his. Our combined channel is Digging with Seven on YouTube. And then we also have a Facebook page, or I have a Facebook page, Digging with Seven. And then we have a Facebook page that I just put up last week called Relics Radio. And obviously, Relics Radio is a collaboration between me and Jeff, and we're on Spreaker. But then I'll let Jeff tell about his personal sites that he has.
Okay. Well, I've got a personal YouTube site. It's Tennessee Jeff, and of course my Facebook. I don't have a Tennessee Facebook page, but I've got it's called Jeff Warrick. That's WARRICK / Tennessee Jeff on YouTube on Facebook. So, but you can reach me there. So.
Nice. Very nice. And obviously we know from listening to the conversation tonight that you guys are not opposed to coming to speak to different clubs and groups and such too. If someone's interested in having you guys do that, they could probably reach out to you.
We'd love it.
That'd be great.
We'd love it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure
would. All right.
Go in heartbeat, if we can.
Right, yeah, I mean, obviously, time and scheduling allowing and stuff like that, but I'm sure that you guys try to accommodate when it is feasibly possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else that you guys would like to add before we roll out of here?
Well, I'd just like to thank all the everybody commenting, and thanks for coming to the show and watching and listening, and thank you for coming to our podcast and everything. So,
right, because I'm not even sure what the chat's doing at this point. I think they locked me out about 25 minutes into the show or so.
Gordon said just added me, so thank you, Gordon.
Oh, very cool.
And I will echo what Jeff said. We're just humbled by all of the participation that everybody has had. What an honor it was to get asked to be on Beyond Sight and Sound tonight. I've listened to your program. I think the first time I heard you had Vic Tucker on.
Vic is a great guy.
I've listened to you off and on since then, and it is a great honor that you asked Jeff and I to be on, and what an honor it was to get to spend the last hour and a half with all the guys and gals that were on the chat. We just certainly do appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. We
sure
love
do.
seeing them back in on a regular basis like that. And that's been a while since we've had Vic on the show. So you caught one of them from a ways back when you first caught the show.
I would say that was 3 years ago.
Yeah,
because
probably.
all I was doing at the time, that was about the time that maybe I started YouTube. I don't know. It may have been 4 years ago, because I was just on a metal detecting forum called Friendly Metal Detecting, and that's where I met Vic at, and we got to be good buddies. And I actually invited him to come to Kentucky and hunt. It never did work out, but I got to be friends with him, and he put on there that he was going to be on Beyond Sight and Sound, and so I tuned in and listened to it that night. Don't think I commented or anything, but listened to it, and it's just an honor tonight, Josh, that you asked.
Thank you very much, Josh.
Well, it was definitely a pleasure to have you two on. You guys are doing very, very well with the podcast, and you've been doing wonderful with your YouTube channel, and hopefully continued success to both of you on both of those avenues.
Well, thank you so much. We certainly do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I see Dave Miller put Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you too, Dave.
Yes.
Hey, you too, Dave. you and Ben and Mike and all the guys. Dave's got a thing that he's in the process, I think, trying to work out for us, and we're looking forward to hearing back on that, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
But appreciate you coming in here tonight, and everybody else. I mean, we just had so many different people that came on tonight.
Oh yeah, it's nice to see the regular names, and it's always a pleasure to see the new names, and you never know. Like you said, people may listen and not comment. You never know who you're reaching and who's listening, and we just always appreciate them for taking the time to listen like that. It's definitely a very very good honor to know that they're listening to us.
Well, I'll say this to our entourage, or the people that we brought over. Support Josh and be on Sight and Sound. Don't just come on whenever we're on here. I know that some of you came because you knew us and you knew that we were going to be on. But Josh has a great show, and he has a lot of great guests, a lot better than what he had tonight. But we certainly would encourage you to support Josh and all the efforts that he has, and the other Facebook channels and everything that you'll see here.
And likewise to the people who may normally tune in to be on Sight and Sound, because we normally see each other in the other chats of the other podcasts, so hopefully they are definitely going over to Relix Radio and catching you guys, because if they're not, they're missing some good episodes.
Well,
thank you very much.
We'll tell it like it is. We'll give you a good time if we don't give you anything else.
Well, there you go.
We'll try to make you laugh anyway.
Right. Well, I certainly appreciate you two for sitting down with us tonight, and if you guys can hang in there for a few minutes, I'm going to meet you guys out and roll the music so we can get out of here, but then I've got a couple of things to cover with you real quick after we go off air.
Okay.
All right. We'll hang on then.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. We had Seven and Tennessee Jeff on with us tonight from Relix Radio. Really, really just down to earth, absolutely wonderful gentlemen to talk to. And as you heard, they are on Spreaker, Relix Radio, every Thursday now. And it's going to be great to see what they have in store with their upcoming podcasts. Much like with us, you can catch us here on Spreaker every Wednesday and Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. Obviously, Relic Radio is 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays. So we appreciate everyone for tuning in. No matter what show they're following, get out there and enjoy the hobby. Enjoy the time with each other. Enjoy building the memories and finding the treasures. If you liked the show, if you had a good time, make sure and throw us a like here on Spreaker. Follow us here on Spreaker, on Facebook. Same for Relix Radio. Follow them. And it'll be a good time for everyone. So until the next time, we're going to roll on out of here. Hopefully, if you're traveling for the Thanksgiving holiday, be well, travel safe, and enjoy the time with each other and the time with your family and friends. Have a wonderful evening, folks. We're going to roll.